So I think this is going to be an overview of the evolution of human psychology. So these are the phases of development that the mental body goes through. I think this is pretty universal. You'll see where there's obviously room for a lot of different varieties, but for like the normie, like I grew up in Ohio. So this is just like what happens to you intellectually, kind of like what is your mind's activity in relationship to the world, right? Because when you're first born, your mind and the world are totally linked. There's no separation between mind and body, or reality, or perception and observer. It's like those two things are moving in complete unison. And then as you grow or as you develop, the mind and reality can kind of like separate. And we call this thought, contemplation, imagination. And so the mind like kind of like splits, and you could say it probably splits similar to how it splits into different cells in the body. Right? The mind and the body are very, very closely mirror each other for a long time. So the mind does this splitting thing where it separates from itself, or if you just wanted to view it psychologically, the imagination separates from, I don't even want to call it perception, right? Perception happens when the imagination has separated already. So it's like something around that. And so then that mind, right, all that imagination that is separated from reality becomes available, right? So the disassociative mind, the mind that has taken a step back, the mind that has abstracted, it becomes malleable. It can detect currents and fields and movements in the imagination. It can actually start to become sensitive enough to actually see into the imagination, right? And that's people that are like spiritual have developed these faculties of the imagination, or that's where you go, it's just imaginary bullshit if you don't really get what's going on. And you're not wrong. And so that mind is kind of taken, and you can do any number of things to it, right? Like if you try and what happened to me and what happens to a lot of people is that you're kind of told this is how things are and this is the way the world is, and like speaking factually like that, based on what we've learned about the world, speaking factually like that in a materialistic way is wrong. It's like wrong speech. It's like it's radically wrong, and many respected scientists and philosophers and theologians have pointed this out. So I'm not going to spend too much time like trying to prove that. I think it's been proven. And so, if you're raised in that, you get this aspect of the mind that cannot come to rest, that can't like fall down onto reality without breaking those beliefs. There can't be like a deep relaxation. And so everyone's kind of raised up into that world, and because there can't be any relaxation because of the lies or the misuse of the mind, right? The misuse of the mind and the body, which again has been elaborated on ad nauseum, right? Those misuses cause a disharmony between the mind and reality. And like separation is part of the process.
But
like if you're going to look at what needs to happen in terms of like, do I need to think of this imaginatively, conceptually, or whatever, it's like the mind, as it disassociates or whatever, or as you push out beyond yourself. And this pushing out beyond yourself, it hurts in some way, or it requires discipline, or it requires you to push through something uncomfortable. It requires, kind of a breaking, that going outside the self, and that frees up this extra energy of attention, right? Like your imaginative bubble within which you have to like think about reality, your free space. When you push outside yourself, it can expand. So that's when people are talking about expanding your mind, that's literally what's going on, right? And people's your mental expansion, is pretty unique. And it'll expand in ways that are as unique and as varied as like the types of animals and stuff that you see. Like that's a reflection of the different types of mental expansion that are possible for the human mind. Like when you look around, and so there's this mythological, platonic landscape that can be seen by everyone, and not only can it be seen by everybody, it can be seen through a variety of lenses, right? Like your mental body that starts to separate upon, right? That's what's going on with puberty, menopause, violence, loss, like scandal, ceremony, responsibility, burden, like all of these things expand the mind beyond itself, and you kind of get these like aha, or you comprehend, or you have this extra mental space to like wrap around and see kind of what's going on. And so mentally, some people are just cattle. Some people are birds. Mentally, some people are jackals. Mentally, some people are mold spores, kittens. Because how you press that imagination into the world as it separates determines its form. And the form of your imagination determines your perception and your conceptions. So you could, think, you're thinking like a dolphin, you're thinking like a monkey. And so the form and the pattern of the body also determines, what's pulling on what and when and where. And if you identify with any one of these divisions, right, wherever you see the mind splitting into two, subject, object, friend, enemy, heaven, hell, right? Anytime that you see one of those splits happen and you take a side and you become a side, you've lost half of yourself, right? If you navigate the middle, if you navigate the paradox, you gain both sides. You maintain both sides. And so the middle is not doing evil, nor is it doing good. but it's the highest because it's the greatest. It's the both. Some people will do good and they will do evil, and do good and do evil, and thinking that that's encompassing both, and that's not the middle. So like some forms of Kabbalah and stuff where you have to transgress as much as you do good in order to like accomplish theosis, to access or realize the God that is in all things. That's not getting both. Getting both contains both in the moment, not back and forth or one and the other. When people analyze your movements, it's the best, but it's hard to evaluate it on any type of moralistic scale. Right, so the evolution that everyone's mind goes through is, navigating this mental landscape, but to try and categorize that or systematize it would be like trying to describe the natural world. And that's the variety of human psychology. So it includes all that normal stuff, and it includes every mythical creature you could ever imagine. And it's real. And until you develop sense organs or realize that you have sense organs on that level and sort of open your eyes and be born under the spirit, right? Like being born under the spirit is opening the eyes of these higher sense organs and seeing that this place of myth and imagination is a physical realm that without the sense organs you can only respond to it unconsciously. Just like a baby, before they're born and they open their eyes, they can only respond to this world somewhat unconsciously. They can't form a map of objects or things like that. It's just some fuzzy thing. So the average person's conception of the world, if they're not spiritually born, right, just opening the eyes of that imaginative body that forms from the excess mind that you get as your mind and your body separate. So imagine like two surfaces separating or on each other, and then the mind, when it pulls away, creates this pocket, or it creates a bubble. And that's the individuated perspective by which you could see something as an object. To have even the subject-object thing, right? Which babies sort of lack, right? And people who have come to deep rest also lack this thing. So like gurus and stuff like that the reason that it feels good to be around them is the same reason it feels good to be around like a newborn baby. Like the smile is so deep and instinctual and reflexive. Like the behaviors are all that deep that you get that same energy, but with a more adult mind. But that's just from the mind and the body not being separated. But if the person can't separate it and is an adult, then we would call them retarded, right? And so there's this fine line to where the awaken the correct state or whatever encompasses, saint and sociopath, genius and retard, but is not either one of those things. Except obviously it's sometimes just super genius, but then you could look in other areas and you go, that's a retard, And so the mind is like, is real, is drawing things into existence. What people are mentally is what they are physically. This thing sticks to people's mind like very, very well. Like, yeah, they're separate, they're two different things, but the body is like definitely magnetically attracted to the mind. Even though you separate from it as you get older, people are this thing for the most part. And I'm sure there's later forms of separation, and at a certain point you have to like there's different phase transitions or whatever. There's different phases. Like, you don't really control when you go through puberty. You don't really control when you go through menopause. You don't entirely control like when you get pregnant. And yeah, there's certain behaviors and stuff that you can do that sort of like either guarantee one outcome or another. At that deepest level, you don't control those things. They just sort of happen to you. And that includes like most spiritual realizations. Like, you have to be born. Like, how are you going to be born? It's something that happens to you simply because you exist, and you've existed for this long, and here it comes. It's not like something you figure out how to do. And you can read up on things early, right? Like, you could be 8 years old and read, like dating advice. And that has, various costs and benefits. And then ultimately, at any point, the attention can shift to where the eye is coming from, like the observing or the awareness. No matter how developed or separated or distinct, right? Like a multicellular organism versus a singular cellular organism, a realized person versus an unrealized person. At any point, either can adopt the position of the eye, which is most closely mirrored in water. Like, water sticks to the attention probably more than anything else. And so anything that's wet can realize that it's like wet, right? Everything's wet with the same wetness.